Next on Worcester News tonight, President Trump calling on Democrats and Republicans to work together. Local reaction to his second State of the Union address. Plus, youth violence in Worcester is on the decline, but city leaders say there still is work to be done. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Olivia Lemon. A winter weather advisory will go into effect at 7 p.m. tonight. The sleet and freezing rain we are expected to see with an incoming storm could make a mess of the roads. Here's meteorologist Tim Kelly with a first look at our local forecast.
Yeah, it's colder today, but still near 40 degrees, not that bad. Now, waves of energy coming along, a bit of rain, ice, and snow tonight, bit of rain tomorrow night, and then colder on the backside of another front on Friday. A lot of little things going on. There is a winter weather advisory in effect for this rain and snow and ice that's coming through. I don't think we're going to see too many snowflakes. What's going on is temperatures just cold enough, especially in the valleys, that some sleet and rain will come down and form a thin coating of ice, probably not on many of the roadways, more like sidewalks and rails and steps. So it'll be a bit icy outside tonight. Between 7 and 10 o'clock, the precipitation comes in, but it's moving right along. It should be pretty much done by about 5 in the morning with the temperature still near freezing. So again, sidewalks, side roads, the steps to the car windshield may need some scraping. And then tomorrow we're left with fog and drizzle. Temperatures are cold, but just above freezing, so there'll be some melting going on. Another batch of mostly just rain comes through tomorrow night. So it's going to be just chilly and damp. Warmer briefly Friday, cold, bright, windy weekend. Forecast in a few minutes.
President Donald Trump giving his second State of the Union address last night. The speech was delayed for weeks due to the partial government shutdown. The president called for Democrats and Republicans to work together. Our Roslyn Flaherty joins us now with the details. Roslyn?
Olivia, the president addressed a number of topics. He did not address the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, and it has people talking.
The President of the United States!
In his second State of the Union address, President Donald Trump called for unity while covering a variety of topics, including building a border wall.
We must choose between greatness or gridlock, results or resistance, vision or vengeance.
The 82-minute speech received mixed reviews. WTAG talk show host Jim Polito says it depends what side you're on.
If you look at some of the initial polling right after, he did well. He did very, very well. A lot better than probably the reaction that you saw from a lot of the Democrats.
Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern was in the chamber Tuesday. He's skeptical of the speech, saying actions speak louder than words.
The president talked about unity, but for the last 2 years, he's been the most divisive and polarizing figure in our political system.
President Trump did not address the longest government shutdown in U.S. history or the potential for another shutdown on February 15th if lawmakers can't come to an agreement about funding for the border wall. McGovern says he doesn't want to waste money. He wants to invest it in other ways to protect the border.
It almost seemed like the president was itching for another shutdown. There are better ways to patrol our border in this day and age. There's new technologies, there's drones, there's sensors. People at the border say they need more personnel.
Polito says he thinks it was wise for President Trump not to address the shutdown and says the president won't give up on the wall because he needs it for a second term.
I think a lot of people expected him to say, I'm going to use my emergency powers and I'm going to build that wall. No, what he did instead was appeal to the American people, made the case. Here's the human trafficking, here's the drugs, here's the amount of murder that's going on. It makes sense in certain points to have a wall. He needs to keep his base, and if he doesn't give them part of that, then the base is going to leave him. And you have to remember that he won the election partly on that issue.
McGovern says there was a bipartisan spending agreement between Republicans and Democrats in Congress to keep the government open. He says the partial government shutdown should have never happened. Roslyn Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
The man charged with killing Vanessa Marcotte is appointed 2 new lawyers. Angelo Colon Ortiz's previous attorneys withdrew from the case last month, citing irreconcilable differences and a breakdown of the attorney-client relationship. Colon Ortiz is charged in the 2016 murder of the 27-year-old Princeton woman. His case was continued to April 1st. College of the Holy Cross students ending a 2-day sit-in after a second meeting with the college's president. Students were demanding the school cut ties with the professor accused of sexual harassment and be more transparent when it comes to all cases of sexual misconduct. Students met with administrators to see if they would meet a list of demands. In a statement, the school says in part, Father Burrows and members of his executive team met with students again today, and they had a positive and productive meeting. We are continuing to work together and feel good about where we are in this important conversation. For the past several years, the city as a whole has been working to reduce youth crime. Several organizations and partnerships are working to make sure just that happens, but city leaders say they can always do better. Our Brittany Schaefer joins us live now with the details. Brittany.
Olivia, youth arrests are down 13%. The city says while numbers are improving, they're continually looking into new programs to combat youth violence.
It's been pretty extraordinary.
Youth crime is down in the city. The Worcester Youth Violence Protection Initiative says efforts started in 2015 are working.
I collect the data from the schools, the police, the district attorney's office on a monthly basis, and through the data we see that these efforts are actually working.
Research partner Lori Ross says in the past 3 years, youth arrests are down 13%, and as of last year, suspension rates are also declining. But she says there is still more work to do.
The area that's been more challenging is the racial equity issue. And so the disparity in who's arrested is kind of continues, and that Latino and African American youth are more likely to be arrested or suspended.
The city points to programs like Recreation Worcester and middle school sports as successes. Counselor Christian King pushed for the return of middle school sports. He says it keeps children busy and focused on healthy goals.
We've had hundreds and hundreds of kids show up for tryouts. There's footage of, filled gyms with kids from all across the city engaging with one another. That's how you combat youth violence. That's how you keep kids engaged. That's how you improve self-esteem.
The Worcester Police Department also has youth programs like the Police Athletic League and the Arts and Music Police Partnership. Lieutenant Sean Murtha says the decrease in youth violence results in a decline in crime overall.
The last several years, 3 or 4 years in a row, we've seen just about every category drop off sharply. It's incredibly important. I think once somebody goes down the road of getting involved in criminal activity, it can be tough to come back. So obviously the best thing to do is not go down that road to begin with.
And King says a mentor program with teens involved with crime is something the city will be adding soon. Live at the Worcester Police Department, Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
A new report shows Worcester's economy climbed in the last quarter, surging to its best year since the early 1990s. Assumption professor Tom White releases his Worcester Economic Index 4 times each year. It's an estimate of local economic activity based on recent Worcester area employment and unemployment.
Are doing as well or nearly as well as both the state and national economy. So things are good. Sometimes we have situations in which the local economy will move in a different direction from the national economy, and that's not currently the case.
And Mass Hire Worcester Career Center works to link employers and people looking for jobs together. They say over the past year they have seen an increase in employment rates.
What we see is a lot of people changing careers and a lot of people kind of moving jobs or changing jobs. We also see a lot of people that the duration of unemployment is less. There's a lot more maybe opportunities for even just to do something while you're looking for your kind of ultimate job that you want.
And Professor White's next Worcester Economic Report will be released in May. Thousands of Patriots fans filled the streets of Boston Thursday to celebrate the team's 6th Super Bowl championship. Many Central Massachusetts fans took the Worcester-Framingham commuter rail line into Boston. Rail operator Keolis says they added an additional 17 extra trains across the state to accommodate the Patriots celebration. And while the company doesn't have exact ridership numbers yet, they say they beat their previous record of 225,000 riders.
Took longer than expected, but we got here.
So many people. They didn't make us pay for tickets. That's how crowded it was.
And I was standing the whole time on the train, so it was pretty packed in, which is a little uncomfortable, but it was so worth it because just seeing those players.
And Keolis says they serve more than 125,000 people daily and were at a maximum passenger capacity Tuesday. They say one of the biggest challenges they faced was short notice. Patriots won the Super Bowl Sunday and the parade was only 2 days later. But as of this morning, trains were back running on their normal schedule with 98% on time.
With the exception of yesterday, where we knew we would see delays because in many cases we held trains and we saw high ridership, we're really pleased today to see that on-time performance is in the very high 90s. Through right now, it's at 98%, and it's a continuation of what we saw in December, January, and into early February.
And Keolis says all of the resources were used Tuesday and they accommodated as many riders as they could. Worcester State University hosted a discussion about race relations. Guest speaker and nationally recognized scholar Beverly Daniel Tatum says conversations about race are sometimes not easy for people to have because they were not raised to talk about these issues. But as our Chandler Walsh explains, she's hoping to change that.
A packed room at Worcester State University listens to race relations expert Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum. The author and psychologist spoke about race and racism in the country.
These issues are hard to talk about, but you can't solve a problem without talking about it. And so we have to get past that hesitation.
Tatum spoke about why race needs to be addressed more. Students like Manasi Kanadu say it's an important conversation for college campuses to have.
Talked about the ABCs, which are affirming identity, B is building community, and C is cultivating leadership. And those are all things that we can all step away with and start to use on our campus.
Last year, a poster with a racial slur was found in a residence hall at Worcester State. President Barry Maloney says the school rallied behind impacted students and staff and created an open dialogue through campus forums and events like Tatum's talk.
The incident is not something necessarily that we're building off of. What we're trying to build off of is that we are celebrating the diversity on campus and the difference that has always been part of Worcester State.
Kanadu is part of the university's multicultural organization, Third World Alliance. He says since the incident, students have gathered to talk about how it made them feel, and he's noticed a change.
That might have been a bad thing, but it kind of opened our eyes to let us think that there is a problem and we really do need to start talking about it because it is an elephant in the room.
Tatum says another benefit of race discussions on campus, colleges are oftentimes the most diverse learning environment with students of all neighborhoods and backgrounds.
In some ways, the college environment is the last best opportunity to really learn how to engage with people different from yourself.
President Maloney says talking about race is important and will take several conversations on campus. Programs like today's will continue throughout the school year. In Worcester, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.